I think these last few weeks, we've seen a very different Alabama offense. Another little wrinkle here. Moving Cam Miller. They go empty. Miller's out to the left.
They got Caden Proctor, the big tackle on the left side. They're going to throw it to him. Big fella. Barreling downhill. Proctor marshaling down near the pylon. Are you kidding me?
I think these last few weeks.
Oh, happy Monday morning, everybody. What a privilege it is to be here this morning on Morning JOX. Appreciate you tuning us in this morning. Conrad Van Order and Damian Mitchell here with you for the next hour. And that right there, one of the many memorable moments from Saturday night between the hedges as Alabama and Georgia had another all-time great one, as you expect typically when those two teams get together. And it certainly didn't disappoint there on Saturday night. And if you are an Alabama football fan, you probably walking into work this morning, driving into work this morning, getting your kids ready for school, whatever it is you may be doing this early in the morning. You probably have a little extra pep in your step. So it was we had been talking last week about how this weekend was maybe going to be the best weekend of the college football season, and we'll have to wait and see if that holds true, but it certainly did not disappoint when you consider the fact that you had 4 top 10 teams go down over the weekend. And I think in a lot of people's minds, Damian, Alabama back on the map as far as national title contenders go. So we have so much to get into this morning. We're going to hit the ground running here as there was just so much from over the weekend. We had the first coach let go in the SEC. As I mentioned, we had multiple upsets inside of the top 10. If you're an Alabama fan this morning, you're probably really, really happy. If you're an Auburn fan this morning, you're probably left scratching your head and with a similar feeling you've had the last few years. So we're going to get to all of it. And, of course, we want to hear from you, 205-834-9450 on the Courtesy GMC text line. But as you heard there in the clip from Caden Proctor rumbling down the sideline, we have to start off with what happened in Georgia over the weekend, Damian, as Alabama was able to hold on for a 24-21 victory there over the Georgia Bulldogs. Just absolutely just an absolutely incredible game there, and what you had with Alabama, where you just had a team that came out with their hair on fire, and it was really, really impressive what Alabama was able to do offensively early in that game, Damian. You had Tai Simpson, who was fantastic. I know he was 24 of 38, and, you would look at something like that and go, man, he might have left a lot out there on the table, but he did enough to win. But I really don't think I could have any criticisms of the game that Tai Simpson played on Saturday. He was exactly what Alabama needed him to be. He was incredibly poised, and just watching him, the way that he commanded that offense. And I know, you had to burn those 2 early timeouts because they were trying to get some of the communication things on the same level. But, you watch Alabama and how they've struggled in the road. Even going back to the end of the Nick Saban era and struggled with communication and certain things in tough environments. And you have a guy making his first SEC road start, and I swear it felt like every single play he was up in the ear holes of his offensive linemen, communicating, making adjustments, calling out protections, and Alabama really didn't miss a beat. They had 1 false start the entire night, which in that environment is absolutely exceptional. But I mean, I don't think you can give enough credit for Tai Simpson and what he did from a leadership standpoint, from a poise standpoint on Saturday night, as he had 276 passing yards, a couple of passing touchdowns, and he added a rushing touchdown to go with it as well. So it felt like every time that Alabama had to call his number, he was there ready to answer the call. A big part of it, too, Alabama on third down, they started out 8 for 8 on third down situations against Georgia, finished 13-19 overall. And a lot of them, Damian, early on in the game at least, were, it wasn't 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3. There were a lot of these 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8s that were having to be converted, and it just felt like every single time that Alabama needed a big play, Tai Simpson was going to find an open receiver. And you got to give credit to the offensive line as well, because I certainly think you can say that what you saw on Saturday night was not only the best you've seen from Tai Simpson this year, but certainly the best that you've seen from that Alabama offensive line as well. And really just incredible stuff there going on the road at Athens.
Yeah, this is the exact response we had been looking for against a quality team since the Florida State loss. Everything that Alabama that I thought about Alabama going into the game, how they flipped the script, and these past 2 games with Wisconsin and Louisiana Monroe are exactly what we needed to see as far as responding. Bray Hubbard probably had the game of his life. Forced fumble, textbook tackle, had on the ball, and I think what you saw from this Alabama team is, you could have easily written this team off. I mean, a lot of people did. They were already looking for Kalen DeBoer's buyout. Oh, okay, well, that was pathetic performance at Florida State. Well, everybody took it personally from that point forward, and not one single time have we had to question their effort. We hadn't had to question, if Tai Simpson's the guy. He's done nothing but go out there and perform at a high level, and you saw that on full display Saturday night. And again, the battle with Georgia is just psychological. It really is. There's no other way to explain it. I don't know what Georgia needs to do or has to do, but now they're in this conversation to me of, you can say you're the big dog until the big dog rolls into town. Because yeah, you look great when you knock off Tennessee 85 times in a row, when you're beating up on the Kentuckys, and last year we saw Ole Miss be more physical than you. It's different when you're at the top. It really is. And Alabama has shown you that there's a consistency that you got to have when you get to this point. Because you could say that Alabama wasn't the most complete team that they have been in years past going into the ball game, but they answered the bell. And like you said, Tai Simpson dialed all the way in. All the way in. And if you want to talk about leadership, you want to talk about a guy waiting his turn, and when he's gotten the reins, he hasn't looked back. I came away just incredibly impressed with the way Alabama responded. And again, it goes back to the Florida State game where I don't recognize this team that's on the football field. Well, I recognize that team on Saturday. And third down, Kirby hit the nail right on the head at halftime. He's like, we literally cannot get them off the field on third down. And you couldn't. And every time Alabama needed a play, their playmaker stepped up. And that call, Ryan Grubb was in his absolute bag on the offensive side. I was kind of questioning what's up with all the timeouts in the first quarter. And then by the end of the game, I was like, okay, never mind. Never mind. You just wanted to make sure you had the perfect play dialed up, and more times than not, you did.
Yeah, and to your point, right, it just felt like every time, even the things that maybe went wrong early, like burning those 2 timeout shots, man, that might come back and burn you, but ultimately it was what Alabama needed to get on the same page early in that game, and you saw that pay massive dividends for them later on in that game. And as much as we talk about Tai Simpson, you have to give a ton of praise to the defense as well, because I think in the first half, right, you're a little shaky at times. You had that one blown coverage there on the call by Kane Womack where he was taking credit. Hey, that's my bad. On that touchdown to Colby Young early in the game. But I thought the defense bounced back really nice in the second half because again, the offense couldn't get off the field in the first half. They put up 24 points. They get shut out completely in the second half, but the defense stepping up in a big way, holding Georgia to just 7 points. And you mentioned it with Georgia and it just potentially being an Alabama problem at this point because again, you look at certain situations and you just wonder, does Kirby make those same calls if he's not playing Alabama? And you feel a little desperate at times because, look, I'll be the first one to admit, right? We might be talking about something completely different if Taylon Taylor catches that touchdown in the third quarter. It would have been a 50-yard touchdown for Georgia, but he drops one. I guess you could say that's a makeup for Ryan Williams and what he did early in the game, right? Sometimes it goes both ways. But you have that big drop touchdown catch there for Georgia that would have given them a 28-24 lead. Then you have the fourth down in the fourth quarter where Kirby could have kicked a field goal, tied it at 24, but they try to go up-tempo. They try to go quickly on the 4th and 1 play with Cash Jones, and LT Overton just absolutely blew it up in the backfield. And so at that point, you had a turnover on downs. And then, of course, you had, even late in the game, maybe not as pivotal of a situation, but still just an undisciplined look, right? So you have, first off, Kirby takes his first time out early in that first drive or that last drive for Alabama. So if they get a first down there, they're kind of putting themselves behind the 8 ball in terms of taking the timeout early. But what happens after he takes a timeout? You got Ellis Robinson coming in there going, I don't even know what you'd call it, cannonball on top of the pile when Tai Simpson's trying to go for a quarterback sneak. and you get the 15-yard penalty on the Georgia player for flying into the pile late. So
And he was like 9-10 yards away, notices, the pile is still there, and then just absolutely he clears it.
Well, and it probably should have been targeting because I think it was LT Overton. I think that's who it was, but he landed right on his head like he was trying to speed. It was weird. But again, those are the kinds of things that happen when Georgia plays Alabama for one reason or another. So you just had those key moments there that didn't go Georgia's way, and then the play call I thought was fantastic on the final drive on the 3rd and 5. You got to get 5 yards. Are you going to run it and let the clock keep going? Are you going to put it in the hands of Tai Simpson, who's gotten the job done for you all night, and that's what they do. You have the little screen pass to J.M. Miller, slides down in bounds, and you're able to take a knee and get out of there with a victory. But, I mean, what an incredible game for Alabama. Is the first game under Kalen DeBoer that Alabama had less penalties than the team that they were playing.
That's when you should have known this was going to be different. And again, for as many positives that I have about Alabama, I'm a receiver at heart. Ryan Williams he's a little too pretty for me. I can't. I don't understand. And I love the fact Jamarcus Shepard
put him on the bench,
sat him down. No block, no rock.
Yep.
Dog. One, your hands. I don't know how Tai Simpson could have put it in a better spot for you early in that ball game. You have T-Rex arms, and it's okay. A little shaky first drive, understand? Like, just get your bearings about you. But when Jeremy Bernard is running outside on a screen pass and he needs blocking and you look up, I'm so glad Kirk Herbstreit brought it up.
Yep.
And give me something. Like, don't just go out there and we at least get a shoulder into him, put your hands on him, at least make it a little bit difficult for the defender to go out there and make the tackle. And you see two go on the sideline. And it's a wake-up call. You cannot be a superstar. You can't out-athlete everybody. There still has to be work put in at the receiver position, and that's why you see Brooks getting these reps. That's why you see these other guys. That's why they're throwing screen passes to a tackle, big dog, because of the fact that, hey, man, when we need big plays, it's starting to see that we're trending towards 5-1, 17's direction as opposed to 2. Not to say that we don't need you, but it's starting to show that, hey, man, either you need to get on board or you'll find yourself on the bench. We don't care who you are.
Well, and he's clearly a head case right now. And look, I mean, I hate it for the guy. He's an 18-year-old kid. He's got a bright future ahead of him, but he's got to figure out whatever it is because, I mean, that's what it is, right? When you're making these amount of mental errors. But what you can handle is, and I'm talking about the drops and that, but what you can handle is how you respond to that. And to your point, yeah, he wasn't blocking, right? If you're not going to catch, if you're going to make those mental errors,
give me some effort.
It's unfortunate, but exactly.
Give me some effort.
You got to make up for it somewhere. And I will give him credit because after he got sat on the bench, you did see him come back. He made that big catch in the fourth quarter where he got absolutely nailed and immediately popped right back up, ran to the sideline. And again, it seemed like, okay, maybe we're taking steps in the right direction there with Ryan Williams, but I mean, all around, you can't say enough about the effort that you got on Saturday night from Alabama. It was easily their best performance of the season. And if they play like that, I think you got to feel pretty good as an Alabama fan because they left a lot on the table. I mean, there's no doubt. You had one of the worst field goal attempts I think I've ever seen in my entire life. You had the fumble that Bray Hubbard caused that led to a field goal for you. But probably should have led to a touchdown. You had situations where Alabama certainly could have taken more advantage and made the score even uglier than it was because it was only 24-21, but it felt like Alabama was pretty much in control the entire time there. So big win for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And let's quickly hear from Kalen DeBoer, the head coach there, and get some of his thoughts after the game. So this is Kalen DeBoer. He was asked about the big 4th-and-1 stop we were talking about. In the fourth quarter, Georgia with the ball. They could have tied it, but they go and try to get the lead, and Alabama stopped them on 4th-and-1. This is Kalen DeBoer weighing in on that play.
They do a great job in the run game. You knew that they were going to try to really, hold the line of scrimmage, both defensively and then control it offensively. And so they did a nice job. But you play every play as its own play. You play every game as its own game. There's nothing that carries over. There's nothing that carries over into that situation. So just do your job, be fundamental, play with great energy, and make things happen. We didn't sit back on our heels and just hope that, they didn't execute. We went out there and attacked it and made a play.
So there you go. There's the or his thoughts on the fourth down stop there that was pivotal for Alabama late in that game against the Georgia Bulldogs. And then finally, I talked about it early when we were talking about Tai Simpson and how impressive he looked on Saturday. But this is Kalen DeBoer talking about his poise that he saw from his quarterback on Saturday.
It takes a lot of work when you get in an environment like we had today. They can't hear them, and you got to make sure every word is heard, and the effort that he put forth today, the energy he just showed in the locker room, man, he's given it everything he has. But, yeah, we knew we were more than likely going to have to get right up there in their ear, tell them exactly what's going on with those protection checks, make sure everyone's on the same page. One guy blows an assignment or doesn't hear something correctly, now you got a guy in your lap when you're the quarterback.
So there you go. That's Kalen DeBoer talking about Tai Simpson again, getting up there in the ear holes of the linemen. And it felt like almost every play to make sure that everybody was on the same page. And it was just so impressive for somebody making their first start on the road in SEC play to have that kind of command. And that's what Alabama needed on Saturday, and that's what Tai Simpson delivered. So we'll get more thoughts on Alabama's big win over Georgia, but we have to take a trip to the other side of the state where Auburn was on the road in College Station, and unfortunately, more disappointment for the Auburn Tigers. We'll tell you what went wrong, let you hear from Hugh Freeze himself, as a lot of people asking questions today down on the plains of Auburn. That's all coming up next here on the Monday, a Reaction Monday edition of Morning Jocks. Welcome back into Morning Jocks here on your Monday morning. Conrad Damien with you until 7 o'clock, breaking down everything from a fantastic weekend of college football. Alabama getting that big win, 24-21 on the road there in Athens. And so now we head to the other side of the state where the Auburn Tigers were also on the road, going up against a top 10 team there in College Station, taking on the Texas A&M Aggies. If you remember the highlight of an Auburn season last year where they were able to take down Texas A&M in, 4 overtimes last year on the Plains in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Just a fantastic one of my favorite football games of all of last season. Just incredibly entertaining. And this one a little different, though. And unfortunately for Auburn, if you're an Auburn fan, had a different outcome as well, as Texas A&M, they hang on for a 16-10 victory over the Auburn Tigers. And on a day where, outside of Xavier Atkins' 73-yard interception return that you had late that enabled Auburn to get up their first touchdown of the day and make it a one-score game and kind of give you a sign of optimism there. Really not a lot to write home about if you're the Auburn Tigers. So you have 177 yards of offense total on the day against Texas A&M. You go 0 for 13 on third down. 0 for 13. That's not good. 0 for 2 on fourth down. Over the last 2 weeks now in losses to A&M and Oklahoma, Auburn is 3 of 28 on third down in their last 2 games. So that's certainly not good enough to get the job done. More untimely penalties. Texas A&M, actually, they had over 100 yards in penalties. They were more penalized than Auburn, but it just felt like every time that Auburn did get penalized, it was at the most inopportune moment and just absolutely killed whatever momentum it was that they might have had at that point. You get into the fourth quarter. Again, like I said, outside of that interception return, you felt like you had a chance, right? If you're Auburn, you got the ball with an opportunity to go and win this football game on the road late, but you had 1 total yard of offense in the fourth quarter. 1 yard. 1 yard of offense in the fourth quarter. You had for the game, again, I think a lot of people asking, why are we not running the football? You have 2 pretty good running backs in Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. They had a total of 8 carries for 38 yards between the 2 of them.
That's disgusting.
In a low-scoring game, not a game in which you're constantly down 2-3 scores and going to need to drive down the field quickly and keep the ball in the air. No, Auburn could have continued to run the football, but they got away from it pretty early again, just like in the Oklahoma game. And then on the other side of things, Texas A&M was able to run for over 200 yards of offense on an Auburn defense that was giving up 58 rushing yards a game heading into Texas A&M. So another long day there for the Auburn offense. Jackson Arnold sacked 5 more times, so only half of what happened in the Oklahoma game, but still not what you want to see there. He went 18 of 33 for 125 passing yards, had 15 carries for only 11 yards, and he did have that rushing touchdown, able to finish off the Xavier Atkins interception there in the fourth quarter. But he averaged 3.8 yards per attempt. Cam Coleman had 4 catches for 18 yards. And we were talking about it in the break, Damien, and I'd love to get more of your thoughts on this, but it's got to be so frustrating because you have Hugh Freeze, who's an offensive guy. You go out and get a quarterback like Jackson Arnold, who you believe fits your offense and you can get the most out of him. And here you are 5 games into a season, and you have a quarterback that looks scared to throw the football. He's holding on to the ball for too long. That still continues to be an issue for him. And you're spending not only this money on your quarterback, but you're spending big money on your receivers. You have maybe the best receiving room in the country. Certainly one of the 2 or 3 best in the entire country, I would say. But you don't have a guy that's willing to take a chance and willing to take them and throw a ball in coverage, try to fit a ball into a tight window, throw those 50-50 contested catches to a guy like Cam Coleman on a regular basis. It's just what is wrong with this Auburn offense? Why did they look so lethargic? Why is this now back-to-back weeks where you're getting into SEC play and you just don't feel like Jackson Arnold has an answer for what the defense is throwing at him?
We had a little bit of it last year where we were questioning Hugh Freeze's play calling, and even when Jackson Arnold was at Oklahoma, it was, why are these decisions that you're making? And we're getting it live and in action in 2025, because And it's crazy enough, I actually feel bad for as much hell as we were getting Peyton Thorne last year. At least he wasn't afraid to let the ball actually go. Now, whether he made the right or wrong decisions, was play dependent. But at least he wasn't sitting there holding on to the football. I don't know what's wrong with Jackson Arnold. I really don't, because there are guys that are open. And I saw a tweet the other day, and it's SEC open. Yeah, nobody's wide, just, separating 10, 15 yards down the field. But there are windows where you have to let the ball go. There's no, I was waiting or something, because I don't know what you're waiting on. These guys are 20, 30 yards down the field, and they're matched up one-on-one. You have the best receiver room in the SEC, but they can't put it on full display because their quarterback's not letting the ball go. And a lot of it has to do with maybe he's just not comfortable in some of the play calling decisions. But also, when you're put in this situation, you've played enough football now to you understand how this game is supposed to go. And I don't know what Hugh Freeze's problem is of just lining up and saying – he almost has a Brian Kelly thing where he just won't run the football, because there's no reason why your two running backs should only have a total of 8 carries combined. That's insane.
Doesn't make sense.
That is absolutely insane. Because you can't tell me – and again, shout out Texas A&M. Maybe the RPO game was saying we are going to eliminate the actual run option so you can have Jackson Arnold throw the football. Because I don't understand, I cannot process for the life of me through at least the past 2 games against higher competition where it's such a hard decision to throw the football if you're Jackson Arnold. And I cannot put my finger on it, because now I'm going back thinking when he was at Oklahoma, what was his biggest concern? Well, you didn't have your number 1 receiving room because of the injuries. Can understand why you have a little bit of hesitation. But now, there's just no excuse. There just isn't any. Your offensive line is doing about as good as they possibly can, and even they're shaky. But when you have guys that are open, you have to let the football go. There's no more thinking. You can't tell me, because I didn't get a chance to watch this game live. I was calling Sanford and Furman, and the only play I got a chance to see was the 4th down play at the end of the game where he ends up getting sacked. Mm-hmm. So I went and got a chance to watch the game yesterday, and I found myself multiple times of, why aren't you just running the football? Just run the football. Call a run play. Not even an RPO. Just run the football. To take a little bit of the pressure off of Jackson Arnold to have to make all these decisions. And I don't know why they're trying to have all these quarterback designed RPOs too, because he's not Cam Newton. Like, you gotta at least he can't continue to keep taking a beat down and then stand up in the pocket. So maybe there's just a whole bevy of things offensively, because if you're Eric Singleton, if you're Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, what more can we do? What more can we do? Because obviously, if we're not just wide open, we're not going to get the football. Because Jackson Arnold he has to play better, or this thing is going to get off the rails, and it's going to happen quickly. Because against Baylor, when they're now I'm going back questioning everything again. The Baylor game was, it got to a point where you just couldn't deny the fact that you had to run the football. Well, now the teams are playing you of, we will live and die with if you actually call a run play and see what happens. Because in the secondary, we're just playing with house money because, he ain't going to throw it.
Yeah.
He's not going to throw it. So defensive line can just tee off. I don't know where to piece it all together, but they are going to have to figure this thing out, or we're going to be having some real tough discussions at the end of the season of how this talented Auburn team, because your defense, granted, I know the yardage was bad, but they did everything they possibly could Saturday to keep that offense in the ball game. 3 for 14 for Texas A&M on 3rd downs. You have to do something on the opposite end. You have to. Marcel Reed, don't ever bring him up as far as Heisman discussions anymore. Because if you put any pressure on him, he's done. He's cooked. He's absolutely cooked. You did everything you possibly could defensively. Now, you struggled against the run game? Yeah, it happens. But as far as the weaponry that Texas A&M had, you had them neutralized for a good majority of the ball game. And when your offense needed to put up points, they just could not do it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered for the Auburn Tigers. And I think, a lot of people, if you're looking, you're going, hey, you brought in a guy in Ashton Daniels who has experience. You got a highly touted 5-star kid in Deuce Knight. I bet if you give them a chance, they're not going to be afraid to let it rip, right? If you're Hugh Freeze at this point, you're probably begging somebody throw an interception. Like, let me know you're at least trying to throw the ball down the field. You're trying to fit a ball into a tight window, because at this point you just have a quarterback who's not even willing to take those chances, and you can't have that. So Auburn with a lot of questions left to answer. Quickly, let's hear. This is Hugh Freeze after the game talking about the offense and how maybe it's time to just kind of reevaluate everything for Auburn.
Very disappointing, difficult. Our kids are playing too hard, and offensively, that was unacceptable. Our defense played their tails off well enough to win the game. We have 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia, and we will take that time to reevaluate everything related to our offense and how we prepare, personnel, everything. This isn't on Jackson or any other player. It's on our staff, and that starts with me to fix it. It was just unacceptable today, the way we played.
So there you go. Hugh Freeze taking responsibility for the disappointing performance there in College Station. So we want to open up to you, 205-834-9450 on the Courtesy GMC text line as well as the phone lines. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Your reaction, your thoughts on Alabama's big win in Athens and Auburn, another disappointing loss there in College Station. That's all coming up as we roll along on the Monday edition of Morning JOX. Well, welcome back into Reaction Monday here on Morning JOX. Conrad and Damian with you, recapping a crazy weekend of college football. Alabama, a big win in Athens over Georgia. Auburn, a disappointing loss there to Texas A&M and College Station. And we are about to hear from you. Get your reaction on the Courtesy GMC text line as well as the phone lines about what happened over the weekend. But first, the big news, getting away from the games, though, if you missed it yesterday, Arkansas, they fire their head coach, Sam Pittman. He becomes the fourth head football coach to be let go this season, the first in the SEC after Arkansas lost 56-13 against Notre Dame. Sam Pittman was hired back before the 2020 season and had a record of 32-34 in a little over 5 years there in Arkansas. He's going to get paid a $9.8 million buyout. And Bobby Petrino, the offensive coordinator, will now be the interim head coach for the Arkansas Razorbacks, as well as a candidate to take over full-time after this season. And some other names to keep an eye on there for the Arkansas job would be Rhett Lashley at SMU, Ryan Silverfield at Memphis, who is part of the problem there at Arkansas a couple weeks ago. John Summerall at Tulane, and then people are going to continue to throw out Gus Malzahn and his name because Mama's calling, and that can be hard to say no to sometimes. So that's some big news there in the SEC as Sam Pittman gets let go from the Arkansas Razorbacks. But let's go to the phone lines real quick here, and let's go to Don. Don's been wanting to talk all morning after his Auburn Tigers lost to Texas A&M. How you doing, Don?
What's up, guys? Happy Monday to you, and Conrad, congratulations on your victory. You're one Alabama fan I can congratulate. Okay.
Well, thank you, Don. I appreciate that. What's on your mind this morning with Mr. Freeze and the Auburn Tigers?
Well, I want to go ahead and tell you, I've been defending that man for 3 years, and both of you guys know this. And Damon, you brought up a good point. Now you wish you kind of had Peyton Thorne back.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. I just said that you kind of feel bad for how he went for 2 years. I wouldn't say I want him back, but continue.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I mean, sure, he threw a lot of interceptions, but he threw the ball better than this. He wouldn't hold on to the ball like you said.
Yeah, and again, throwing interceptions is something I still want on my roster. But continue.
Well, no, of course not. But I'm done. And when y'all brought up the 8 runs. 4 of those were basically possession runs where you set up a field goal, and the other 3 you ran on 3rd and 20.
That's a good point.
But the worst play calling of all to me, you had 3rd and 1 when you had the ball trying to drive. You had 3rd and 1 and you had 4th and 1, and you threw the ball both times.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's typically you run it on 3rd down if you know you're going for it on 4th down, and then maybe you try to get a little more creative. But yeah, that makes you scratch your head.
I know you're under 2 minutes and everything, but get the first down and get it going and everything. And it's just, and I said this, we're going backwards, not forward in the 3rd year. It's just time to make a change. And if we do make a change, the first person on my list is the Georgia Tech coach from Trustful. Brett Kay would be my first choice.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you real quick before we let you go, Don. Do you want Deuce Knight to get an opportunity here moving forward? Do you want him to stick with Jackson Arnold? What do you say for the rest of this year at quarterback? Do you want to see a change?
Well, no, Conrad, since the game was over, I've been hearing rumblings that it's not going to be Deuce Knight. If we make a change, it's going to be the kid from Stanford,
Ashton Daniels. Okay.
That's what I've heard, and I think either Deuce Knight or Ashton Daniels will start the Georgia game. I think he's done with Arnold.
All right. Well, we will wait and see, Don. Appreciate you chiming in this morning. But there you have it from from one Auburn fan, his disappointment. He's done with Hugh Freeze. Now let's go to the Alabama side of things and welcome in. Let's see who we got here. Josh. Josh wants to talk some Alabama this morning, I believe. How we doing, Josh?
I'm doing good. I don't necessarily want to talk Alabama, but I do just want to give my thoughts real quick on Hugh Freeze.
Okay, what you got?
I've seen enough. I'm out. I don't know if he was diagnosed with cancer over the off season. I don't know if maybe the stress is getting to him. I don't know if he's sick maybe, but I think he needs to resign or step down and go ahead and kind of clean his hands of it because you can't be a bad play caller and a bad player evaluator at the same time. You kind of have to pick a struggle. And, you can sit around and you can blame Jackson Arnold, but we have consistently for the last 2 weeks put him in terrible positions. Every third down, our average third down Saturday was 3rd and 11. No quarterback in the country, I don't care who you are, John Mateer couldn't succeed under those circumstances. Our offensive line, of course, we're not going to succeed when every pass route has to be at least 12 to 15 yards. So you're having to block elite defenses for that amount of time. You just can't live like that. Eight carries from the running backs. You have this elite running back room with Damari and Cobb, and they get 8 carries. And like Don mentioned, about half of them were just, filler carries because you didn't want a turnover. I'm out. The offense it's crazy how we fired an offensive coach for some of these same problems, and here we are 6 years later in the same boat. So I'm out. I don't want Brett Key. I want Lincoln Riley or throw back at Lane Kiffin. It's time to stop playing around. If you're Auburn, there's too much money being circulated in the program. There's too much commitment from the university to keep pitter-pattering around. So I'm out. Just throw a bag at somebody and at least make it interesting. I don't care anymore.
All right, there we go. There's Josh in Birmingham. He's
done.
He's out on Hugh Freeze just like Don there. So I think a lot of Auburn fans probably feel that same way this morning here. So we're going to run to break real quick. Keep bringing in your text on the Courtesy GMC text line. Keep calling in 205-834-9450. The rest of the show dedicated to you guys and your reaction. Whether you want to talk Auburn, your frustrations with Hugh Freeze and the Auburn offense, or you want to celebrate a big Alabama victory there in Athens over the weekend. That's where we go next here on the Reaction Monday edition of Morning Jocks. 6:48 here on your Monday morning. Conrad and Damian here with you, recapping week 5 of the college football season and getting your thoughts, your reaction to Alabama's big win over Georgia and Auburn's loss there to Texas A&M. Before we get back to your calls and texts, though, if you missed it yesterday, the new AP poll came out, and I it's hard for me to remember a week where you had more movement in terms of so many teams making massive jumps or, falling back, 7, 8, 9, even 10 spots in some cases over the weekend. So Alabama, after their big win over Georgia, they moved from 17 up to number 10. So Alabama back in the top 10 there. Georgia, they fell 7 spots from 5 back to number 12. So that's where they currently are. Texas A&M, after the win over Auburn, they're up to number 6 now, which is their highest ranking since early in 2022, if you remember, when they lost to Appalachian State. And they would go 5-7 that season. So been a few years there for A&M. But how about this? Ole Miss, they have that big win over LSU over the weekend, 24-19. They're up to number 4 in the latest AP poll. That is their highest ranking since 2015 when they beat Alabama, and their head coach was?
That would be one Hugh Freeze.
That would be correct, Damian. So Ole Miss, their highest ranking in 10 years since Hugh Freeze was the coach there in Oxford. And LSU, they dropped 9 spots down to number 13 after that loss to the Rebels. So that's your AP poll update there from the weekend. And let's get some of these texts in here on the courtesy GMC text line before we try to squeeze in another call or two and hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. But this text rolls in this morning. It says, Hugh Freeze can say all he wants to say, but these losses are on him when he decides not to run his running backs. Again, it's been an issue his entire tenure there, and 8 carries in a game that is a one-possession game in SEC play where you're trying to grind out a victory. 8 carries is all you can muster to your tailbacks. It doesn't make sense. Tim from Coleman chimes in. You never want to lose a game, but do you think the loss to FSU actually could have been a good thing for Alabama? I think now it's easy to say, yeah. They needed a kick in the rear end, and they got it early in the season, and it certainly seems to be paying dividends for them right now. A Florida State team that, by the way, lost over the weekend to Virginia.
Hope Squirrel White is okay.
Yeah, it seems like he's okay, but that was certainly the – I'm not saying it's the best in the sense that it looked dangerous, but it was the coolest field storming I've ever seen.
Oh,
I mean, immediately.
And I noticed it when they were kicking field goals there in the end zone. I was like, man, those fans are mighty close to the field, and it's a bunch of them back there. But GMAC says this a lot, and it makes a lot of sense. That Nick Saban used to say back in the days, don't waste a failure. And I think that's what Alabama is doing right now. They're like, hey, we know how bad it looked against Florida State, and ever since then, you have seen a flip of the switch for this Tide team.
This text rolls in. It says Ryan Williams can either play the full position or another school can pick up the NIL tab for next season.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would feel that way. It says Ryan Williams should be getting to know the sled very well this week.
Get yourself acclimated.
I think they're going to get him. I think they're going to get him back on track. Someone says Julio Jones had some drops his first couple years in the capstone. Yeah, that is certainly fair. Let's see. Joseph chimes in and says Kirby should have taken the points. Terrible 4th down play call with a 170-pound running back in Cash Jones.
Yeah, I think the decision of who was in the backfield is probably the biggest question mark I have.
Well, because Bowen had been,
cooking.
Yeah, like just keep feeding him.
Yeah.
That didn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, I think that's a situation you're trying to go quick, catch Alabama. It's one of those play calls where if you're not going against Alabama, I don't think he does that. But, there's a little bit of that psychological angle there. No doubt about it. Nick from North Birmingham says, I expect a staffing change is coming from one of the offensive position coaches. He says, my guess is the offensive line coach for Auburn before the Georgia game, and there'll be a changeup in the offensive lineup. This defense does not deserve this offensive performance, and I would have a players-only meeting with the offense if I'm any one of the defensive players there at Auburn. Let's see. Tom chimes in, says, I feel confident of this new Alabama. They're more a complete team than Bryce Young or Milroe's team. Williams as a receiver needs to work on blocking and overreaching catches. He has soft and small hands. As long as they don't get penalties, advance the chain, they have a chance to win. But this is just one big win. they have to do this every week. They certainly do with Vanderbilt and College Game Day rolling into Tuscaloosa this Saturday. Bobby, our resident LSU fan, he chimes in. He says, GG's to Damien's Ole Miss Rebels.
Appreciate it.
They made less mistakes and deserved the win. On the LSU side of things, though, Joe Sloan should be firmly on the hot seat as the OC after that game plan. I get Caden Durham was out for the day, but there's no way you can only have 8 rush attempts at halftime against a defense giving up 170 yards per game rushing, especially with half of those coming from a wide receiver.
Things you hate to see. But, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. You'll be fine.
Let's see. Ken says, disappointing game for Georgia fans. Kirby had his annual Bama brain cramp. Several players failed to play to the standard. Best field goal kicker in the country, and Smart failed to kick the ball to tie the game late. You can't outrush Bama 2-1 and lose the game. Offensive line for Georgia dominated Bama in the second half, and Alabama failed to score. And this one here says, old John Mack chiming in. Gig 'em. Morning, Auburn fans. Call in, Don, and give us excuses and talk about recruiting for 2026. Cam Coleman won't be at Auburn next year. The Aggies defense shut down the Hugh Freeze offensive genius. Aggies offense left so much on the field, it could have been 48-3. So that's our resident Aggie fan.
But he's not he's not wrong. It could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. I will say, for the sake of Auburn plus 6.5, I'm glad they called back that Mario Craver touchdown late and they had to settle for a field goal. Let's go to Tommy in Pell City this morning. Get his thoughts here. How we doing, Tommy?
Roll Tide, fellas.
Roll Tide, Tommy.
That's the best game I've seen them play all year. And Vanderbilt, they better watch it. From what that loudmouth quarterback said, we're going to be a number 1 contender. I don't think so, pal. I think we're going to knock you out this weekend. It's going to be Bama 35, Vandy's zip.
There we go, Tommy from Pell City laying the smack with Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt coming to town this Saturday. You love to hear it. All right, Chris, you got 30 seconds, buddy.
Yeah, right, guys. Roll Tide. You know what I'm annoyed at you about, Conrad?
What's that?
You should be peed off the fact that they keep the sports.
All right, thanks, Chris. Appreciate you chiming in there with your Roll Tide this morning. Big weekend for Alabama fans. Enjoy the victory this week. Auburn fans, you get a bye week to lick your wounds and hopefully have a new-look team coming out against Georgia in a couple of weeks. That does it for us. We're back tomorrow at 6 a.m. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Those